Hey, I'm Grant Babbitt.
And I'm Steven Farnsworth.
And you're listening to It's a Dad Thing podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to It's a Dad Thing podcast. Steven, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Surviving through the coronavirus so far. It's a little crazy still, but it is what it is. We're staying indoors as much as we can. I mean, we're going outside in the yard, but we're staying away from everybody as much as we can. I'm very easily staying away from you, which is probably a good thing, ultimately. But yeah, I'm trying to stay away from you, even though you're here now in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I know we talked a little bit last time, but officially, welcome back to Los Angeles.
Yes.
It's nice to have you so close, yet so far away.
Yes, even though I'm still in the same city, it feels as if I'm on a Zoom call, so I might as well be anywhere at this point. But I'm glad to be back, finally have my family back in LA, and it's real nice to go outside and the sunshine and all that kind of stuff. I really like Detroit. I have nothing bad to say about Detroit, except that LA is so much better.
Well, that didn't sound very pleasant to anybody who's in Detroit. I mean, I would have enjoyed if you actually got to see a Tigers game at Comerica Park, because we've talked so much about how you were so wrong about that.
Yes.
But
and I had tickets, and we're still in the process of trying to get a refund or something, because for my birthday I got tickets to the Tigers game, and obviously that's not happening. And so we gotta figure that part of it out. But you know what? I'm actually really excited this week because we have my good friend Jordan on as a guest. Jordan Owen is a good friend of mine. He's a director in Los Angeles. And Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself to the podcast?
Yeah, that's my whole life, pretty much. I'm a director in LA, originally from the East Coast, Florida. I've met my wife. Geez, what is it now? Almost 17 years? That's probably wrong. 17 years ago. We've been married for 12 and expecting our first child.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so we're 2 weeks out. I know, Grant, you're expecting as well.
We are. We're if any of you are regular listeners here or first-time listeners, I've had 3 kids already. And we are having our 4th and I believe final baby. We'll see. But 4th baby, and I don't know what your due date is, but we are May 20th. We're already a scheduled cesarean birth, so we know when we're going in unless anything changes. But
got it.
What about you? What's your due date?
Our due date is April 17th, so that's literally 2 weeks from today.
That is. That's my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
No, well, thank you very much. So fun fact, my son's birthday is the day after mine.
Okay.
So 17th, 18th. And because his birthday is the day after mine, I constantly have a countdown for my birthday. I cannot forget it because my son knows it.
Right.
So yeah, we'll be counting down your due date.
Yeah.
We'll see if it happens that day. But if it does, is it he or she? Do you know?
We don't know. It's a surprise. Oh. Yeah. That was a bit of a discussion in the beginning, but.
Okay. Well, that's a
choice. Who was pushing for that?
I pushed for not knowing.
Okay.
As the resident artist director in the house, any sort of uncertainty I was in for. She's very much a planner and wasn't feeling it. But it was kind of funny in our own ways. In that process, we both came to the conclusion that the other person was right. Because I was thinking, my thing was she's carrying this child. I'm not going through anything physical or anything like that. I was like, she should get to choose. And on her own, she was thinking, well, he doesn't get very many decisions through this process, so let's give him this one. And somehow I won without even trying.
That sounds like a very good marriage. I don't know that I don't know that we would have come to the same conclusion that the other person was right. That seems like you guys are a really good team.
Yeah, we try to be. We all have our our issues and our problems to work through, but I think we're communicative at least. I think that's the first step for sure.
That's good. So I got to ask, Have you had a lot of people say like, oh, it's definitely a boy because of this, or it's definitely a girl because of this?
Everything under the sun, like the way that she's carrying, or the where the moon is on the day we conceived, because they know that.
No, my parents, the first time we had our baby, were in town. It was around our anniversary. They were like hanging out with us, and then when they found out we were pregnant, they were like, oh, you guys totally conceived when we were in town. I know it. I'm like, what does that matter? Why is that so exciting? But yes, you got all sorts of crazy. Yeah, you guys were out in the living room, and we completed it.
I'm sure you heard it.
It set the mood. Yeah, having you guys here was really helpful to the libido. I don't know if it works that way, but that's interesting because we're on our fourth child. So I like to say we're pros at this now. I wish we knew more, but just in the birth part, going through the motion 4 times over. This year, for the first time with this child, we had a gender reveal party, which obviously, since you guys aren't finding out the gender until the baby's born, you're saying like, look, I don't need that, right? I don't need that. That's an aspect of the pregnancy procedures that a lot of people are like, that's an exciting part for them, right? Is a gender reveal party, which is separate from then having like the baby shower and everything else that goes along with it, right? Yeah. So that's interesting because we'd never done that before. And now this time we figured we'd try it because I don't think we're going to have any more. So why not? And then you guys went ahead and said, look, we don't want to know the gender, so we're just going to write it out anyway. So skip that party, save some cost, whatever it may be, right? Whatever the reason is. But the thing is, with us, I was wrong 100% of the time guessing if it was boy or girl.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what you think it is. You don't have to tell us. Don't worry. But if your wife and you have like I think it's a boy or I think it's a girl. I don't know if you guys go through that, but we went through that, and each time my wife was correct and I was not.
Oh wow.
And
we've discussed it. I think she's kind of flipped 2 or 3 times. So
okay.
I'm not sure we have any definitive idea of what that is. I haven't really thought about it or have a feeling one way or the other. Not to everyone has their preference. To me, I was kind of like, if I get my hopes up in one way, I didn't want to be like, oh no, it's a girl, or oh no, it's a boy. And I just didn't want to have those like sort of emotions or feelings. So I was like, whatever it is, I'm down for it. We have we're pretty locked in on a girl's name. We're still figuring out guys' names, so it's kind of if my preference is anything, it's because I have a name ready for a girl.
Sure.
But we haven't really discussed it, we've discussed it, but I don't have really feelings one way or the other what it's going to be. For her, it's like physiological, and maybe it has to do with your wife too. It's like she, I don't know, there's magic in that process and feels something hormonal, or I really don't know. For me, it's just like, I could guess heads or tails, but I have no idea. Yeah.
Right. Well, you guys are in 3rd trimester.
I think everyone died.
Oh,
everything fell apart. Sorry.
Everything fell
My
apart.
Screen freaked out. Everything was frozen. Sorry, I ruined the whole podcast.
I'm still here. And Jordan, you were froze for a second. But
that's okay. Stephen will cut this out. Don't worry about it. Stephen will edit this. If you were in the conversation earlier, you don't get that. I'm sorry, but Stephen.
Yeah, I just finished that sentence, so it was like gone, and I was like, oh no, they hate what I just said.
No, it's
just silence.
I was going to tell you. So you guys are in the last few weeks before the baby's born. So I would imagine probably at this point, have you seen like a leg or an arm like move around from side to side?
Oh yeah, it is. It's disturbing. I don't know any other way to put
it. What was it like the first time you saw that? I mean, like the first time. I'm sure you felt the kicks, but like to see it actually come like out of the body like Alien and move around.
It is certainly Alien-esque. That's kind of that experience. I wasn't sure how to react or feel about that. I was like, holy cow, that like cemented the reality of it. I think it's like that is it has limbs. It's real now.
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot of ideas and emotions surrounded around that.
Well, I would tell you, if you want to figure out if it's a boy or a girl, if the fist is closed when it comes around, right? With the fingers are down, it's a boy. But if the fingers are up, it's a girl.
Okay. And you have which document, scientific document did you study to get that from?
That's in the journal of.
It's the journal of. I make all that up. So no, it's that's not true in the least. Please, nobody listen and think I'm telling the truth on that. Come on.
Sure.
Now,
I
Grant,
do love that people are serious about that, though. There's a lot of people who are very serious about their hypothesis about why, or
I mean,
I'm not sure how we.
I'll tell you the one that actually was right for my wife, and the only one that I'll kind of lean towards, or well, it's kind of two. One is she got really bad morning sickness when she had our daughter. The boys, she was much better. She would have morning sickness, but not to the extent that she had with her daughter. And then the other thing is like when she had her boys, each time it was like her figure was the same, and then she just had this bump. Like just had a belly bump, right? But when she had her daughter, she actually would start to like gain weight in different parts, like in her neck and stuff, which was just, she held it differently, right? How they say, and I know there's carrying the baby high and low or whatever, but I noticed that, you know, I hate saying I noticed it. She noticed it and told me about it. I didn't notice it. No. Is it just like her body reacted differently to a girl? And it's like she actually gained weight with the girl as opposed to with the boys. Everything stayed the same except this belly would get bigger. And so that's the only thing that I can kind of go off of. Like when someone says carrying, I don't know high or low. I don't know how to tell that by looking at everybody's belly. But when I can say like, oh, you look like you either, sounds awful, when you look like you gain weight or not gain weight, then that's how you can tell if you had a girl or boy. That's like the only thing I can kind of go off of. And that's just my wife and I, but still I was wrong every time. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, I go off of that kind of morning sickness, and that's been the closest I've been able to get after the fact. But you know, I know it's 50-50.
Steven, does your experience, because you have a boy and a girl, we have two boys and a girl.
Yeah. There was definitely a difference, but to be honest with you, I have no idea what that was. Could not tell you. Sarah could tell you in great detail. I know that there was the morning sickness. One was much harder than the other. And I believe it was my daughter Peyton was the harder morning sickness. And weird cravings. The cravings were totally different. I mean, it's been interesting, you know, because each one of ours is totally different. We had a boy, then we had a girl, and now we adopted overseas. It's like, you know, each one is completely different. And so, but it's kind of exciting because you kind of, you know, like you are clued in. I remember whenever I were having our first, I mean, I read, you know, what to expect when you're expecting and like dad books and all this stuff. And then with the second and third, I was just like, I don't know. I just totally didn't do that. I was like trying to kind of just catch up with things. And so I think each one is totally different. But one thing I wanted, Grant, did you ever see the birth announcement of Jordan? Did you ever see
I just looked through the notes that you sent me and I saw it. And that I was saying, looking at your poster you guys made for the announcements, I could tell you must work in film because that was a great reference. I'm assuming Raising Arizona, right?
Exactly. And I actually, some friends, we just had, this just arrived. So anyone who may or may not have been able to see this.
Oh my gosh.
This is literally our announcement there. So that's probably terrible video, and it's probably better if you guys link it.
Maybe we can throw it up on the socials for other people to tag you in it.
They give you a reason. Check out It's a Dad Thing podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places you can find social media and all the pictures, and we'll put it up there. Also, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, then you saw it. But if you're not, if you're listening to it, what it is it's a poster that looks very similar to that of Raising Arizona, the old 1980s film with Nicolas Cage, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's Coen Brothers films. Who I'm a huge fan of the Coen Brothers as a director myself. And what's funny is you would think this came from my knowledge or my background, but Morgan actually thought of this. She wanted to do an announcement, and I'm not a huge fan of like the normal like here's a balloon in the woods with a belly announcement thing. It's just not my preference. So we're just trying to figure out how we could meet in the middle there a little bit. And she thought up Raising Arizona, and I don't even know if she had seen it. I don't know how she came up with it, so it's all in her genius. Excuse me, but
So great.
when I pulled up the poster, like the top line is their lawless years are behind them, their child rearing years lay ahead. I was like, yeah, that's it. We have to do it.
Well, there's your boy's name, Arizona.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Decided right here.
Or if you want to go Phoenix, then you can do like a deep cut on the joke.
I like that.
Yeah.
Or even Flagstaff, I guess. No, that's too much. But
No, too far.
Yeah, I mean, you could work it in there.
So we were
so Jordan, like with all the pregnancy stuff, how has it? I mean, has it gone as you expected so far? Like, what was your kind of from the outset? You know, how's things kind of materialized?
I don't know. Again, I didn't really know that I had expectations. I was kind of like ready for the experience, just like let whatever happened happen and feel that out. It has been, just to shatter what we just talked about with the carrying and morning sickness. In the beginning, Morgan was sick pretty much almost through second trimester. So for a long time, morning, day, night, sick. And she's also carrying what I affectionately call the torpedo, which is straight out. So we're not sure if that's a boy or girl, but it was quite, overall it's been, I mean, you get those milestones and they kind of fall into, a certain range of expectations. The sickness was rough. We just talked last night. I've been kind of disappointed because there's been no cravings, really. I was like going to be the husband. I'm like, let's go get pickles. I don't know what. I was like, ready for it. Like, what's the craving going to be? It's like nothing.
Pickles, French fries. Yeah, well, which is, by the way, very convenient now that we're all supposed to be at home.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that works in your favor. Yeah.
Yes. I think now that she can't get out, she's having cravings. So I don't know if that's pandemic cravings or pregnancy cravings, but it's been pretty outside of the sickness side. It's been an interesting ride, I think.
Have you been able to go to all the appointments and sonograms? And I mean, have you been there for the whole thing?
We kind of did some on and off stuff. There's a lot of appointments. I'm sure you guys know that a lot. And I just kind of said, hey, I'll be at every one of them. But if there's some you don't, need me at, I don't have to go. It's up to you. So I've kind of let her dictate. I think this is a good one to come, and we'll have more questions here or there. Some of them are little. There's been some I've gone to too, where I walk in and they take her vitals and then we leave. I'm like, well, that was fun for everyone. I mean, it's good if there's a problem to go in there and catch that stuff. Of course, it's all necessary. But there were no questions or information exchange. It was like we were just saying hey and leaving. So that's been kind of interesting. Since the kind of the lockdown, I think it's been, is it 2 or 3 weeks now? I don't know.
I think the third week. Yeah,
so this is week 3. They pretty much said I'm out. I'm not allowed in until the birth. So she started doing non-stress tests. Stress tests. I think last week she started doing those, and they said no one outside of the person who has an appointment can go in. And she said even when she walked up, they were, taking the temperatures at the front, and someone wanted to use the restroom that was right inside the door, and they refused to let them in, which was great. So it's been pretty strict for good reason. And so that's kind of strange. I kind of feel like I'm a passenger at this point, but
yeah, you know what? I was going to mention that too, is, one of the things when you were talking about how there's a lot of appointments, I mean, one of the things in pregnancies past has always been like, look, I have to work and I'm freelance. Like I'm sure you are freelance, right? As director, is you can't always make it to all the appointments, but you can try. And I know with our first son, I was at, I want to say almost every appointment, if not every appointment. And then after that, it was like, look, whenever there's a sonogram, I'm not missing a sonogram.
Sure.
Like that kind of is what our rule was. It's like, I will always be there for a sonogram no matter what. Everything else that's vital signs or just talking, that's okay. You can keep me updated. But if there's a sonogram, I'm going to be there. And if I'm not there, then she'll try to videotape it. But it's very few and far between that I've ever missed a sonogram until now. Right now is the coronavirus. And now we just had, I mean, just this week, we just had our first, she went in, did an appointment and a sonogram, and they're like, yeah, husband can't come.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, which makes sense anyway, because they didn't want to take the kids out of the house to then take them into a healthcare facility. Right. But it still was very weird to just be like, okay, I know you've been in the house the whole time, and I've been like the one running out and doing stuff, trying to be protector. And then be like, okay, well, go, you know, have our baby looked at. Like, you know, it's just like this, like, I'm not there. Like, it's not tangible right now.
Yeah, it's different than when you decide, I don't think I'm going to go on this one because, you know, X, Y, and Z, and then rather than being told you can't come.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
Totally different. Yeah,
very bizarre. Right. So you were told you can be there for the birth, though, right?
Yeah, we're at Kaiser Permanente, so they have made a pretty good like point of being specific that you can have one person. We hadn't hired a doula or any, you know, extra help or anything like that. We had planned to have both my mom and her mom, if not in the room, like at the hospital. But we had to have that conversation that, you know, that isn't allowed at this point. I don't even think you can't even go into a waiting room. There is no waiting rooms anymore, basically. Is
your family and her family, are they local?
They're not. So they had planned to come out just a few days before our due date, and her parents have decided to cancel, and we're still kind of deciding what my mom's gonna do.
From the East Coast, right? That's where you're from?
East Coast, yeah. They're both from Jacksonville. Well, they both live in Jacksonville, but yeah. So yeah, we had planned to have like the full help postpartum, multiple grandparents and food train, and then you know, we have a, you know, decent sized social circle, so a lot of help in that respect. And now we're like looking at being locked in on our own, which is a little bit nerve wracking, I think, because we don't know what to expect. And that's kind of what we hear from everyone. It's like the best part is like everyone pitches in and helps, and I'm sure that's a wonderful experience. I don't think we'll have that quite the same way. I'm sure we will, but
I'll tell you at least from my experience, because we're in a similar case. We are my family was not coming out, but my wife's mom comes out every time we've ever had a child. So which it's a lot at this point. This will be the fourth time that she would come out here. We've had all of our kids here out in California. So we're from Kansas originally. So all of our family's back in Kansas. But we were going to have her mom come out here, and then because of this coronavirus is basically like, look, we've got to cancel. And now we're at the point now where we're actually trying to figure out like, what do we do? Because we have 3 kids, all 6 and under at that point, 7 and under, that we don't know, like, I can't take them to the hospital with me during the birth, but we can't like take them to someone's house and drop them off because, you know, you're not supposed to be doing that. So like, we're trying to figure out what to do because we don't have family here.
Right.
And so we're in a very weird spot with that. But also I will tell you, at least from my experience, because I've had multiple children, the first time I had my first child, I wasn't working at all for like 3 months before he was born. So, you know, as someone in our industry, if you're not working those months, you're not getting that income, and when work comes along, you have to do it. Right. And so literally it got to the point where I took my 9-month pregnant wife, because I was about where you are in that like 2-week window. Yeah. And we lived in like Pasadena, Altadena area, and we were going to Santa Monica. So any of you who are not from LA or California that are listening to this, that's reasonably should be about a maybe 30-minute drive, but generally can be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours depending on traffic. So that being said, if I was on the west side, if I was in Santa Monica and she was in the valley, then there was no way that if she said, I'm, my water broke, whatever, we need to go right now, that I was going to make it back. Like there was a possible 2-hour window, right?
Right.
So when I went on this job interview as a favor to someone who I didn't even really want the job, I just went, fine, I'll go because I haven't worked. I went on the job interview and I took my pregnant wife with me, and she sat on the couch while I did the interview. And I did the interview and I was like, look, I'm here. My wife is pregnant. She's 9 months pregnant. If she goes into labor, I'm leaving. Like that was how I introduced myself. Hi, Nice to meet you. If she goes into labor, I'm out of here. I don't care about this job. You understand?
Yeah.
And like, that's how that job interview ended up. And it turns out it was fine. We spent a little time at the beach, whatever, went home. And then 2 weeks later, she had our baby. But what happened those 2 weeks later, I got a phone call when I was in the hospital and I just had my son. He's 2 days old at this point.
Wow.
And we had an emergency cesarean birth. So she had to end up spending 7 days in the hospital total. So it wasn't like we were in and then, vaginal birth and then out, like you can recover very easily.
Right.
Or faster, I guess, not easily, but faster. And so I'm in the hospital and they call me and say like, well, we want you to work. I'm like, okay, cool. But I just had my son who, remember my pregnant wife during the interview? That baby's here. And they're like, well, we need you to start tomorrow. And I was like, my wife and baby are in the hospital. And they said, this is the job. If you want it, come in tomorrow. So I came in, and for like the 3-4 days that my family was in the hospital, my brand new family, I was at work and like falling asleep at work, and they had me sit. I'm sitting at a desk and stuff, and they're like asking me to edit this stuff, and I'm falling asleep. And I like the first day of my job, I fell asleep in a chair, and somebody comes over and wakes me up, and I go, I just have a baby. I'm not sleeping anyway, and I'm barely here. Yeah. So everyone was cool with it, but that's the thing. Like I worked through those like first few weeks, and it was in Santa Monica. So in the morning I'm spending my time driving, and then I'm coming back and he's not awake anymore. And he's, so I didn't spend any time with him as a newborn. And I always hated that. Then when my daughter was born, I got laid off from that same job 10 days before she was born. So then I had lots of time with her, and the difference was so like, it was such a, it's hard. Right. And granted, we did have family there, and you may not have family there, but the fact that this is going on and this sucks, the coronavirus thing and COVID-19, all this scary stuff that's going on. But the fact that you can be there with your baby, he or she, you get to be at home with them and spend that time with them, getting to know them and like experiencing all those new things for those first couple of weeks. And you and your wife get to figure out what the heck it is you're even doing, right? To begin, because everything changes from day to day, hour to hour, and you guys get to learn together and experience that together. And that part of it is so awesome as a dad. Difficult. You will be so tired. You don't know what to do. But it will be so, I'm excited for you, because even though all this crappy stuff is going on outside around us, the fact that you get to be there and be with your son or daughter and just spend that time with them when normally you could be like, well, I still have to figure out work or whatever. That's a possibility. And like, that is so, it's just, I can't state it enough how much I'm hoping you will look back on that and be like, this was so great. This great blessing we had in the middle of this like crazy, disastrous time. And sorry, I'm preaching down on you for that kind of thing, but like,
no, that's great.
It's just like, it's so cool. And I'm so excited for you to be a dad that, it's such a life-changing experience, and I'm so excited for you to get to experience it. And the fact that you have to be home and you have to be home with the baby is like so rad to me. So I don't know. I'm excited for you.
Yeah. We have all the time in the world on our hands. I feel like, it's going to be, I know they keep saying like 30 days. I think we're in this for a few months. So we're going to have some time to figure it out, and it'll be good. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will be hard too, as you said.
Yeah, and I remember that you guys did a virtual baby shower, right? Recently?
Yeah.
That was like last week, maybe?
Mm-hmm. I think it was last Saturday.
Because we were
cool.
driving back, and Sarah was trying to tune in, but of course, terrible service and all.
Sure.
But I'm like, man, what a cool, unique thing to try to get people together, because with the coronavirus there's so many things that are happening and out of our control and stuff, but what I do love seeing is still people reaching out to their community, so people reaching out to their friend groups and people to connect, because that's really the central part of humanity. How did the virtual baby shower go? Was it like glitchy and all that kind of stuff, or did it end up being like a positive thing?
No, it was pretty positive, and we had, I think that was the same day we planned to have the InPerson baby shower. The non-COVID baby shower was planned for that day.
Mhm.
And I think a few weeks before that, we had to make that decision that, this isn't going to happen. Even before it was really on lockdown, we just thought, it's better to be safe than sorry in that process. So luckily we had a little bit of time. And by we, I mean, Morgan has a great community of people and women around her that spend a lot of time, extra time contacting everyone, letting them know that we didn't even know this was going on, but we're not having this experience. We're going to do something virtual. If you wanted to get a gift, please send it. And like I said, put a lot of effort into just corralling everyone that was available. And I think there ended up being 50 plus. I don't know the exact number, but there were a lot of. I'd never seen so many Zoom windows in my life of people on there, and it was great. I think like Tuesday of last week, boxes just started like showing up. We kept UPS in business last week for sure. It was just box after box after box, which kind of like gave me anxiety. I'm like, we're trying to clear things out for the baby, and it's like now I have 50 boxes in here. It's just like it was a little bit crazy, but it was great. A lot of stuff what we needed, some things we didn't think we were gonna get. We were gonna have to buy on our own, which was fine, but we were a few, I think, I don't know, 8 or 9 people went together and got us the stroller, which showed up at the doorstep, which was great. So it's just one of those things you start thinking like, okay, what do we, we start going to the list. What do we need? What don't we have? And what can we get? And sort of all of those things came from those people in that community, which was great. Stephen, I think your wife was involved in the stroller thing as well.
I'm sure.
So you were in
right.
in essence.
Exactly.
No, it was really great. And then they kind of had one or two people kind of led the thing, and the person who hosted it, I guess, could mute everyone. I'd never done like a Zoom like that. So it was like kind of, they did some games and did some stuff, and like they could mute and unmute people. So it worked really well. I think some people had some technical problems with getting in, maybe with connection or stuff like that, but that's just the world we live in, I guess. But it was super positive. In a time where we were, Morgan's parents were canceling their flight. We had to cancel the baby thing, and our emotions were certainly high and moods were low. That was super great for all of our friends and family to go to the way to do that.
Are you doing anything different for like this final couple weeks? Like, because I know like for our first, it was like the final couple weeks, we obviously non-COVID time, we like went out and saw all the movies that we could, or did things like that. Are you guys trying to do any kind of stuff like that? Or is it just like, oh my God, with this pandemic, like it's just too much?
Yeah. I mean, we're not going anywhere. So, which isn't, it's not as strange for me. Morgan has a full-time job. She's an executive at a nonprofit. So her being home and working from home has been quite different. For her and for me, I'm used to working from home for the most part on my own. So as an extreme introvert, I'm starting to get used to, I think this is like, I don't know if it's a higher power or whatever, just getting used to having someone in my space at all times, but that's certainly what's happening right now. Sure. But as far as like going out, I mean, we're certainly like just giving each other like, this is your last bit of space. If you want to go in the room and watch, I'm blanking on the name, the Midwife show. Call the Midwife, I think it's called, whatever. It's like, you go in there, lay down and watch that. I've been playing, I'm a closet video gamer, hence the headset, but I've been playing games as much as I can. That I know that time will evaporate very soon. So we're just kind of doing our own thing. Like we're together all the time. So we're also being on our own a little bit too. So just kind of giving each other space and watching movies. We're just kind of eating up. But to me, this is like normal. I'm at home, not seeing anyone for weeks at a time anyways. So it's not as extreme for me. I've been writing a script for, I don't know, since the beginning of the year at least. So this has been my normal for several months.
And I'm curious for both of you guys, like, I mean, it's been a while since my wife was pregnant, but what kind of like advice or things to think about or whatever for maybe dads that are just behind you? Either they just found out that their wife's pregnant, or they're in that first trimester, you know, they're kind of starting that journey. You know, you guys have obviously have your own experiences, but like, what is something that you would, I don't know, let them know about, and something they should think about? Does anything come to mind?
Jordan, what do you think? I know you're learning a lot in this lesson, this experience with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm learning a lot, and then I don't know anything. So, I'm like right in the middle of extremes there. I think. Yeah.
Welcome
I
to
don't
fatherhood.
Know.
That's 100%
exactly.
fatherhood.
Exactly.
We're all trying to figure it out as we go.
We keep having we every child we've had is within like 2-3 year span, and it's like close enough that you're like, I don't need to take a class again. I remember this, but it's long enough that you're like, what did we do? Like, what? I forget all these steps that we were supposed to do, but I know them, but I don't know it yet. So anyway, yeah, it's fine. Your dads forget. It's okay.
Yeah. We took the class, and it was super, super great. You know, I remember we were talking about, she knows like all the terms and specifics, and I'm like, I need you to break that down a little bit for me about what exactly that is. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn, and I'm kind of like, you know, I've read some stuff like you did, Steven. I don't know. I'm just, I'm also just waiting for things to happen, and then not being very proactive. Sometimes I'm like, am I doing enough? I don't know. But also, what can I do?
Yeah, no, that's true. And you know what? That's funny because, you know, are you a Mike Birbiglia fan?
Yeah, I know his work for sure.
Oh, okay, I can't remember which comedy special it is, but he did a comedy special, and there was a big portion of it was about how, as a dad, he realized he's kind of the third wheel in this relationship. Where there's like totally. Mom and kid, and then there's you and your dad, and you're kind of like, okay, well, because you know, mom carries the baby, then mom feeds the baby, and it's mom, and then like dad's there to tickle him and like make him laugh every once in a while, and then like back to mom for all the comfort and everything else. So, and I know that's not 100% true, but
sure.
But as being a dad who's been through it many times over, yeah, you'll get that feeling of like, okay, well, what do I do now to be helpful? Because you know, I see you guys doing your thing, but I'm over here, and you know what? You don't have a boob. You don't have a boob to feed. Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that you know, for me, one of the things that I've liked to do, but I also didn't get to do it a whole lot, is I don't know how you guys have decided if you're doing breastfeeding or bottle feeding or whatever, but we try to go breastfeeding with everything. And have been pretty successful. I know, like my sister, she tried to do breastfeeding, but it just wasn't working for them. So they just had to go a different route. But like my wife did not like the breast pumps. So she would try to, and I know it sounds very weird saying this, but like this is your future, is just talking about this stuff all the time.
Totally. Yeah.
But my wife would try the breast pumps, and they just were either uncomfortable or didn't work well, or, you know, it wasn't working for her. So one of the things that I always felt like I missed out on as a dad was, I thought maybe I would get a chance to bottle feed the babies, but because we couldn't, because we were basically purely breastfeeding and the breast pump wasn't really working, I just never really had a chance to feed the babies. And that was a thing that, like, to me, always felt like that would be so important, and this big bonding step that I wanted to do that I never really got to do. And granted, there's lots of other bonding phases throughout their lives, and when it became feeding the baby solid food, that became my turn to feed. Like that was but I would say, for at least my advice to you, Jordan, and to any other dads that are out there that may be expecting, is you know, you will go through different phases constantly, and it's okay that you feel like you don't know what you're doing, because I'm excited for you to experience this too, because being a dad is not just like you look at your baby and you're like, how do I love this thing so much? I just met it, right? I just met him or her or whatever, and like I'm just so madly in love with them. And you do that thing where you go, you know what? I love my wife. I do. I love my wife, but I love this kid. You know, and there's, you know, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Steven. There's a different aspect that it's like, there's this sensation like you don't understand it. Like the moms understand it when they're in the womb, right? Babies in the womb, they're a mom. you're a dad, but you're feeling this weird alien thing on the outside, and you're seeing all the videos of the heartbeat, and you can hear, you're like, okay, cool. But until you like see that baby and you hold it and you're like, holy crap, like, what am I doing with it? Then, you know, that's when you experience fatherhood. Yeah. And I mean, you know, to me, to my opinion, but one of the things is, even though you feel like you don't know what you're doing, the cool thing is like, as long as you keep trying, then that's fine. You like, you have to be there, you have to try, you have to be a part of your child's life. And if you do that, then it's fine, because you'll mess up a bunch. I mess up all the time. And I know Steven messes up all the time. And like every dad out there, we mess up all the time. It's totally fine. But one of the things that you will realize, which I think is really exciting and somewhat like sobering, just so like, if you ever look at your parents, like, how did they raise us? They were superheroes or whatever. That first time you take your baby to like the emergency room, or that first time your baby gets hurt like badly enough where they're like, oh no, I need to get my baby stitches or whatever it could be. Yeah. And then you realize, my parents went through the same thing with me. And like that love and that fear and all those things that you feel for that child at that moment, your parents felt that about you. And even though you went through adolescence, you're like, I hate you, mom, I hate you, dad, but you know, all that other stuff, like, and all the crap you put them through, like, that's how they looked at you when you were born. And that's how they still look at you at this day. And it's like that kind of like love and understanding that you feel for your children, you start to appreciate back towards your parents. And you also realize they had no idea what they were doing. Yeah. Because that whole like feeling of you being lost and you being like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's exactly them too. You can read all the books. Like you said, you've read the books, you've done the classes. That's great. Let's see what happens when the baby comes out. You're not going to remember. Yeah. And that's
well, that's what I remember on our first was I felt really confident of each phase. Like Jordan, you were saying, each milestone, and understanding like, okay, what are we trying to do with this one? What is the doctor looking for? You know, and going into the birth, it was like, okay, here's what I think we can expect, and kind of have a good understanding of what was going on. I remember though, when Peyton was born though, and they like have her in those little trays, you know, or whatever, and they wheel them around the hospital. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? Like I hadn't read nothing about like what to do once it's born. I just remember having this thought of like, oh crap, I should have read something about like, what are you supposed to do? And I just remember like bringing Peyton home and like, you're trying to figure it all out. And just remember being like, I just don't want to drop her. Like, that's the big thing. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm not the one that drops her. You know, because it's also new, and it's also like, you know, right in your face and all that kind of stuff. It's
they won't stop moving. That's all I know about kids. I've held, you know, quite a few babies in my life, and I'm like, why are your arms and legs just continually trying to run away from you? I don't understand what you're trying to touch or hit. It's just such a, I just imagine, I want to see like an adult do that, like just randomly like shoot stuff out for no reason. It's such an odd time. My wife actually did. I had that question like a week ago, and she explained it to me, and I forgot already. I was like, no, I don't know. They're just weird and they want to move.
Yeah. Well, the reason why is because, if you want to know, the like small babies, the reason why is because we're born with like lots and lots of nerves. Okay, so like our nervous system is full of nerves. Let's say, and I'm just going to throw out numbers for perspective, not that they're accurate in any way, but let's say we have 3 million nerve endings in our body, right? And what happens is when they have their arm that does this, right? Well, and I'm raising my hand if you can't see it, if you're hearing it. If they raise their right hand, right, and they can't figure that out, maybe they're trying to raise their left hand, but their right hand raises. What happens is there's nerves in there. There's 3 of them that are saying, raise your left hand. And for some reason, one of them raises the right hand instead of the left hand. And what happens is once they start raising the left hand enough times, the other 2 nerves die off. So then they start understanding that motion. It's I mean, and I know I'm not scientific. This is me learning something and then trying to translate it to you or explain it to you. But that's basically why their body goes crazy, because there's all these nerves that are going all the time. And then until they like kind of go, oh, no, that's how I do this. Then it kills off the nerves that are unnecessary.
Got it.
If you're interested in this, and I think this is a great movie for anyone out there, but I know there's lots of babies movies and things out there that I don't know if you've sat down and watched them. But there's a movie called The Science of Babies, and I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but that was the first time I had seen it. It was on Netflix years ago. Maybe if you search YouTube or something, it might be like in parts, but it is super interesting because it'll literally walk you through like the first year of your baby's life and the amount of development that they go through. And it is insane how much they are learning and taking in and changing. Like literally from week 1 to week 2, you will have a completely different baby. And it is fascinating how quickly that they develop and change over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you get a chance to check it out, The Science of Babies.
I will. That sounds interesting. Yeah, I haven't watched any videos actually. I don't think.
Well, don't watch birth videos. I will tell you right now.
Yeah.
Those will scare the hell out of you.
I think in the birthing class we went to, there was one. I was like, that's enough. I got the one in.
Yeah, they make you. I mean, it's part of like we did Lamaze class because our goal was to do everything like unmedicated and we're gonna do all that stuff, and then things change. I won't go into it because you're about to have babies, so I'm not gonna scare you with my story. Another time we'll talk about it and I'll explain it.
Yeah.
But things changed and all the Lamaze stuff went out the window. But in the Lamaze class, part of it was like, you're going to watch a birth. You're going to watch how this happens. And I, for me, and I'm sure Steven and probably the same for you, the appreciation that you will have for your wife after she has your baby, you're going to think everything you've ever done is you are a completely weak person and that your wife is the strongest person you've ever met. And it's going to be very true. I've seen my wife do things that I would never watch another person go through. And she's still walking around. And like, I don't know how she does it. Like, it's amazing what they go through. And she's just incredibly strong, and you'll have this is me talking, but I think you'll have it'd be more appreciation for what your wife, who she is as a person and her strength that she, can deal with things. So it's just a fascinating time.
Yeah, I believe that. Our plan is to do as natural as possible. And I've already said to her, that's incredible. Because if I'd be like, give me every drug in the department that's available. I would just like, if guys did that, there would just be no question. There would be no natural childbirth. I believe that there is just no possibility that we put ourselves through that pain, to connect in that way to our child. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking for myself. Can't talk for every guy, but I'm like, yeah, give me the drugs, man.
No. I'm passing a kidney stone through that small of a hole would be difficult. I don't even know. I couldn't even imagine a baby through a hole. It's similar. I know. No, not working for me. No.
Tough times. But yeah, we're and I think you said this earlier too. Our plan is to breastfeed right now. To quote Mike Tyson, the great philosopher, everyone has a plan to get punched in the mouth, but our plan is to breastfeed, and we actually have very different sleep schedules too. So as far as bottle feeding goes, that is the plan. She tends to go to bed early and wake up early, and I'm a complete night owl. So we're hoping in this ideal world of not having a child yet that she can go to bed, get a few hours in while I'm up, do 1 or 2 feedings with a bottle that way, and then kind of hand it off. In theory, we all know that is up to whatever decision the child decides to make in that process.
You know what? Just the fact that you're saying in theory means you're already steps ahead. I'm down. I'm telling you.
Typically the ones that have zero tolerance for any change is the ones that are real trouble. It's not to say that there won't be times that things actually happen as you think that they will. It's just the ability to understand that these are more guidelines that we're going off of,
right?
What we're hoping for. No, and I think you're gonna be great. I'm actually super excited to see you as a dad and see how things progress, because I know it's like, and it happens in every stage. It's like I'm still kind of like in that phase where I'm like, now my daughter's 9. What do you do with a 9-year-old that thinks like she's an adult? I don't do the stuff that you're about to do, changing diapers and doing that stuff, like where you are literally like keeping this child alive.
Mm.
You know, it's like now I'm in a different phase, but that's with that child. And now, you know, it's like it's so interesting, I think, with fatherhood, that like you like adapt and mature as your children mature. Like it's kind of like God was like, listen, they're not going to be ready. Let's give them 9 months or so to like figure out what in the world they're going to do before this baby comes out.
Yeah.
And then like, let's make sure that they don't have to do like any like, you know, teenage parenting yet. You know, it's like almost like
Right,
God's like
right.
set up these like milestones as they go. It's like none of us would be ready if it was like all of a sudden they like the Will Ferrell skit where he like pops out, he's like an old man, or he's like, you know, and he's like, remember the baby is like ready to go. He's got like a tie on and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a wild ride.
But yeah, I mean, it and another thing too to add to that, Jordan, is one of the things like we're talking about, like, you know, the in theory kind of thing is when the babies are born, they're born at 9 months, but realistically, there's the way we've evolved and the way we've developed, right, is that babies want to be in the womb for 12 whole months. Like that's how like the baby is designed to be in the womb for 12 months, but they're born at 9 months because if they get any bigger, they cannot be passed through the canal to be born. Like that's just it's just physics. It's logistics for the whole thing. Right. So the reason why we like swaddle a baby, right? Which have you been practicing swaddling already?
Not once.
Okay, perfect. You'll do fine. Swaddling was really hard for me. So
I bet it will be. Yeah.
It will be, but you know what? You'll get the hang of it. And if you don't swaddle, just hold on to them real tight, and then they, you know, no, it doesn't work. Yeah. Oh, there you go, Steven. You got it. You doing it? Yeah.
It's a lot of folds.
Luckily, it's a lot of folds. Well, as long as one of you has swaddling down, then the other one will just feel like a piece of crap most of the time. I mean, they'll be fine. No, but because, you know, that's why babies want to be swaddled those first 3 months. But the thing that I really want to point out to you is like, what happens is that about 3 months, that baby will start to smile and start to have personality, and like they'll come alive. And the reason why is because that 12-month period is actually done at that point, and they're more or less like coming to life for the first time. Before that, if they smile at you, it's just gas. But after that 3 months, it's like a real, like they're smiling because they're like, hey, there's dad, hey, there's mom, and it's like a personality. But the one thing I'm going to give you a heads up on that scared the heck out of us is that they sleep a lot the first 3 months. Like, you know, not every baby, because there's colicky babies and you know, there's a lot of stuff happens. But if your baby sleeps like 17 hours, like if it sleeps just forever and you're like, I need to wake them up so they can eat, just understand like everything is okay. And your baby is not going to waste away if they miss a bottle, like on your time period that has been told to you that they need to be fed every 3 hours or whatever it is. That was one of the things we got hung up on. And then we'd like wake up our baby to eat, and we just like, I don't know, like he's sleeping too much. It's okay. Enjoy the time when they're sleeping through anything those first 3 months, because after that, game over. Game over. So
don't say that. It's not game over.
Not game over. Not game over. But any idea of like sleeping and like you just it's what I'm saying is like
that's when your melatonin comes in. You know, like there's certain things that you can give a child to try to get them back to that stage.
That's the whiskey days, right? That's what you do. Whiskey on the gums.
I wasn't going to say it. I was going to go with melatonin, but yes.
Yes.
You got it. I think they said Jim Beam is okay for kids.
Yeah, I've got a whole cabinet over here. We're ready to go on
Perfect.
that.
Perfect.
Yeah, Jordan has been he introduced me to some whiskeys that I didn't know, and opened my eyes to that world, which I'm very excited
Jordan,
about.
you and I have a special spot in Steven's heart then, because you've introduced whiskeys and I've introduced him to Guinness.
That's true.
There you go.
It's true.
Yeah, yeah. I don't drink beer, so I can't help him in that front. So
that's all right.
Yeah.
His liver can still find a way to hate us.
Now, Jordan. On a side note, not a father question. What films or things are you watching during this quarantine? Because I know that you have a very specific taste.
Yeah.
So what is there
weird.
anything?
Do I have a fetish that I don't know about?
It's not a fetish. I don't know how to say it. You just
I'm
have
wondering
a very
where this is going too. I don't really know.
I should say you have a very unique palette of movies that I would not normally watch.
Steven, you can say butt stuff. It's okay. You can say it. Okay.
Yeah, Steven would be much more mainstream in his tastes.
I'm in the top 10 of Netflix. Like that's where I live. Like now that
Okay.
they have a top 10 thing, I'm like, oh great, this is where
Yeah.
this is the movies that I watch.
I'm a bit of a snob, I guess is what he's trying to say in a nice way.
Okay.
What am I watching? I actually have been trying to watch one film a night, obviously before the baby, from the Criterion Channel. They have their streaming service, which is great.
Oh nice.
And those are certainly off the beaten path. Some stuff that Steven would be confused with and not want to see ever again. So I'm kind of like mixing it up. While I'm writing the script, it's a bit of a thriller mystery. So I'm trying to like lean into that genre and find some stuff that's outside of maybe what, American audience might have seen, some foreign stuff for sure, some amazing stuff out of Korea. Right now, a lot of people know about Bong Joon-ho, because Parasite's out and it just won the Academy Award. He has an amazing film that I just forgot the name of, that my mind was like looking at the cover and it just disappeared. Memories of Murder. It's a great movie about a real serial killer in Korea. I think he made this 20 or 30 years ago, and they actually just I think they found out who did it. I think the guy finally confessed 30 years later. So that's one. I'm trying to dig into everything I can this is one of those things you asked earlier, what are we doing to pass the time? I'm like, how many movies can I watch right now? How much can I backlog on this stuff? But it's I kind of teeter between, I love super dark drama stuff. And I can go down a path where I'm like stuck in that for a long time. So I'm trying to mix in something a little more fun every now and again.
Have you watched Tiger King?
I have watched Tiger King.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Steven, have you watched Tiger King?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just finished it last night.
Okay.
And I don't, we don't have to give spoilers away or anything, but like,
let's spoil the whole thing.
Perfect.
So
Everyone
I
dies.
have one thing to say on that.
I mean, technically it's all in the news already. So it's
right.
So I'm watching this, and I didn't watch any previews ahead of time. I just heard a bunch of people were watching it, and we're like, okay, let's just throw it on and let's see what it's about. And then as I'm watching it, I had to text my parents because I was like, oh my God, I'm having this flashback memory of being in a Salvation Army, and I was like 12, 13 years old, and it was like halftime of a game, or it was like, some kind of, I was in basketball, so something to do with the basketball league of Salvation Army, and they brought a tiger out on a leash, and I was like, was this the guy? And so I'm texting my parent because it's in Oklahoma, and
Sure.
I'm from Oklahoma, and so I'm texting, and my dad's like, no. He's like, no, it's Safari Joe. So there is.
Yeah, Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic is like the middle southern Oklahoma Tiger King, and then if you go in the northeast, there's Safari Joe. And my dad in his quote said, or in his text back to me said, yeah, we walked up, and the guy was in a truck, in a Datsun truck, single cab, with a tiger with no leash on. And he said, I have no idea why I ever let you walk into that gym. And all he said was, it's the 90s, baby.
That can't be more accurate. So
I had an interaction with Safari Joe, not Joe Exotic, but fairly similar experience of being on, like a small Salvation Army gym with a actual tiger, full-grown tiger on like a dog leash.
Oh, do any of you? I mean, I watched Last Week Tonight, literally like whenever it's on, every week, as soon as it's on, with John Oliver, right? Did any of you guys watch that?
I've only saw the coronavirus one.
Okay, I just didn't know. I didn't know if you saw the episode where they talked about Joe Exotic when he was running for president.
Oh, I did. I remember that when that clip came up. I remember watching back last year when they were talking about it. I was like, oh my God, that's the guy. I remember him walking and talking with the throne and all these tigers walking around.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that, and I remember when Joe Exotic was like, I remember when he got arrested and all. I mean, this is before the documentary came out, of course. This is like when it was actually happening in the news. But it's one of those things like when the Tiger King happened, I didn't realize that was Joe Exotic. I was just like, I don't know, what's this Tiger King thing that everybody's talking about? And then I flip it on, I was like, oh, it's this guy. Like, and I don't know about you guys, but I thought for sure this is going to be a fun, wild ride. Right, first episode, second episode, it's like, oh, like all these crazy characters. Like this is ripe for like, you know, entertainment. This is great. And then I don't know about you guys, but the last episode, I just felt so like defeated inside. I was just like, oh, I feel so bad for everything that I just watched and for all the stuff these people just went through. Like, I don't know, I just felt
there's
so
no
sad.
redeeming quality at all.
No.
Jordan, what'd you think of it?
No, I agree. It was. I can't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to a friend that was just like, it's astounding that there's such a subculture of these humans that, like, we didn't know this world existed, right? It's just such a weird niche of community of people and personalities. Like, how can this guy be secret? How did we not know this guy was alive?
And especially now, and he's all over the internet. And like, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I wonder, as a filmmaker, like how real. I mean, we know documentaries are real, right? "Quote unquote" reality TV. The whole thing is like these things are happened, and of course, there's some truth to all of that. But yeah, I'd be super interested to know how manipulated that was from a storytelling perspective. And I know there's a podcast that came out before the Netflix show. These guys were like interviewing them at the same time, and you know, they kind of differ. I think they differ a little bit on some of the story, but so that's interesting to dig into from a storytelling perspective. But I think we can all agree that Carol killed her husband. Like, everyone knows that, right?
And why that was just dropped in casual language. Just I was like,
no, I mean, they did a whole episode on it. It was called
No, I know, but like the way it came out was just like a throwaway sentence.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, there was a lot to that that particular character or person or whatever. Like, there's a lot more there, and I don't know if I want to go any deeper than what they did. But it seems like there's just a lot more to that story. That even like with their new husband and everything, I was just like, there's something that's just off.
Yeah, and I think what's cool though is like as you watch, like what you were talking about, Jordan. There's a podcast. And I think what's cool about being in this, besides the coronavirus stuff, but like being in this day and age of media and being involved in it, is like how story is still king. Story is still the one thing that trumps everything else. But how do you tell these interesting stories? It's like, okay, well, I think this was like a 7-8 part series. So it's like, it's like a documentary, but it's like 8 documentaries put together. As far as length goes, but then it's like, oh, I would totally listen to a podcast based on this, you know. And then I'm sure some people would read a blog, or, you know, I mean, there's so many different things that I think what is interesting once you get the story out. It's like, where does it live? You know, it's like you're writing a script. You know, does that story come out as a feature film? Does it come out as a short film? Does it come out as, you know, a podcast? I know people that are starting to write stories for podcasts, you know, like narrative stuff. It's just such a cool environment to be involved in.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's so much content for that particular story. Like, I don't know that it can ever be a movie or even like a single article. Just would not work. There's so many angles and so many people, and like when the most normal person on the documentary had their arm ripped off, it's just like such a weird.
Oh my goodness, I know.
And my sister-in-law said, "Why do we every time we see this woman, is she in a trash dump? Why?"
That's where she lives. I think there's a trash dump. That's her house.
No, but it's like you took a screenshot. It's like, oh my God. But yeah, it's unfortunately it's in Oklahoma. I appreciate Oklahoma. I grew up in Oklahoma, but for that area, it's pretty on point. It's not a huge exaggeration.
I will say there was 2 moments, and granted, there's many moments through that whole docuseries like that kind of hit you in different ways. But the 2 that really stuck with me as a filmmaker were right at the beginning. The documentary starts with the director saying, "I was making a documentary about this," and it was this guy who owned this giant snake And I think that's what he was going for 5 years earlier. And then someone says, hey, check it out. I got a snow leopard in my van. You want to see it? Right? So the guy's like, okay, well, I'm going to go down that path. And we've all been there where, like, whether you're doing narrative or doc or whatever, or even commercial, this is what we started with. And this is what we ended up having. Right. So like that was like, that really resonated with me. And then the other thing was right at the end, when the guy who was there, was hired to make the reality show. And he says, you know what? I was hired to make this reality show about, Joe and his zoo and all this stuff. And I realized I was trying to make it look like he cared about the animals and how that hit him. And he was like, I have to live with that every day of my life. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, I've worked on those jobs. I've worked on those jobs where I've been telling someone's story and I'm like, look, we have to make you look like you care about what this thing is that you're doing. Now, it's not even taking care of animals, which of course is a whole different element, but just telling those stories where you're like, come on, can you fake like acting like you care so we can make people think you care about this? Like we've all been there as filmmakers and so it's that kind of stuff like really hit me aside from every other crazy thing that happened in the documentary. Those two things that kind of bookended what it's like to be a filmmaker at times. Yeah. So it was fascinating.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you say, like, if you're speaking to a client or something, it's like with that weird dance of like, I need to make this person happy, but what they want isn't achievable. It's not reality or whatever. You're like, yeah, I'll film that, but I want to film everything. Mm-hmm. It's like I have to see, you kind of have to like, you playing two sides of that too. Not manipulative, but you're just saying, I want to show, the truth here. And what's funny about the truth is, as we're talking about this now too, is like what the truth to me is very different from probably what the truth to them is versus what the truth to you guys are too. So it's like, it's always interesting to take it from that perspective too. Of like, their truth is X, my truth is Y. What is this going to come out as? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
By the way, Jordan, as a dad, same experience. Your truth, your son or daughter's truth, your wife's truth, they're all going to be different. You're going to have to figure that out and figure out a way to get along. Hey, Jordan, I know for Steve and I both, we're very excited that you are becoming dad. Welcome to the club.
Thanks, man.
You know what? And if we're here, if you ever want to ask us questions, I don't know if I'm even helpful or Steven and I are helpful at this point. But if really though, if like the baby's there and you're like, look, I'm at a home and I don't have a lot of friends that have kids, reach out to us because either one of us will be there to help you and at least tell you like, don't worry about this green color that's coming out of the kid. That's fine. That's normal. Like we're there for you. So if you ever need it, man, just reach out to us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I 100% will. And I know, we have some super close friends who have a daughter who just turned 6 months, I think. So we're kind of like, as we go through this process, we're talking to them a lot too, because they just did it. And then we have another friend who had a daughter, I think about a year now, or a little over a year now. So it's kind of like we have a couple of people we can reach out to and share some experiences. But you guys have a lot of experience too, so I'll add you guys to those.
Don't forget about hand-me-downs. Those are fantastic. You get a couple people in front of you, especially during like the 3 and under phase when it's like they never walked. Why do I still have them in shoes? They don't walk. Why do I have
so many pairs of shoes? That's the question.
So you get all those hand-me-downs. That's how it works. That's your train.
Right. I think I made one of our friends a little upset too because we were talking about birthday parties. They were having a 3 or 4 year old. I can't remember what it was. Someone was having a birthday party. I was like, my first memory when I was 5, they don't know this. And they were like, yeah, it's for me. I was like, oh, well, that's fine. That makes sense now. Now I understand it. It's like, those shoes are for you and your wife. I get that's.
Oh yeah.
Those are
100%.
You want your kid to look cool.
My oldest son just pulled his first tooth out yesterday.
Oh, crazy.
And here's the thing. My wife and I have been taking video of him every time he wiggles his tooth, just in case, right? So we can get it when it comes out, right? And it's not going to be for him. He's fine. He's about to turn 7 and he's losing his first tooth. He's wiggling it back and forth, grossing us out. And my wife started videotaping him. He's wiggling it. And then she goes, oh, hold on a second. Because the other 2 kids are arguing. And she steps out of the room for a second. And he goes, Dad, you want to wiggle my tooth? And I was like, yeah, let me wash my hands first. So I wash my hands. And I go, oh, let's wait for Mom. She wanted to videotape this. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Let me just, I just pulled my tooth out. And so, and I got to watch it. It was right in front of me. Like, that was great. But my wife was like, I missed it. I wanted to film it, and that's we're doing that for us. Like, those are our moments for us because he might not remember his first tooth, but
Right.
so yes, again, I'm excited for you to learn and experience all this stuff. And, man, it's going to change your world. And I'm so excited for you. And I couldn't be happier.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we're excited. We got 2 weeks of freedom left.
Well, thanks so much, Jordan. I appreciate you joining the podcast. I'm so excited that we got to make this work with me coming back to Detroit and the whole coronavirus thing, keeping us all indoors. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I think we'll have to check back in maybe later on once things settle down and see
definitely
how your experience goes. But so super excited for you, and thanks so much for jumping on the podcast.
Yeah, Jordan, do you have any like social media places you want anybody to reach out to you or see your work or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram. It's Jordan W. Owen, at Jordan W. Owen, I think is what that is. And then my website is jordanowen.com, JORDAN.
Okay.
And there is another guy, let's just warn everyone, there's another guy named Jordan Owen out there. We are not the same. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'm wondering too. All right, interesting.
Yeah, go hit Google up and see what those top hits are.
Well, we'll try to tag you and maybe not accidentally tag the other one.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy. Just some interesting beliefs.
Okay, got it. So you're the bearded Jordan Owen.
He's bearded too, I think.
That's
And I
not
used to
even
have
a
long hair. No, I think he's actually clean shaven with long hair. But I
Okay.
cut the long hair, so we're good, I think.
All right, we're switching it up a little bit. Awesome. So yes, Jordan, thank you for coming on. For all of you guys listening out there, I know I said this earlier, but feel free to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube even. And if you can subscribe on Apple Podcast or anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're now on iHeartRadio, on Spotify. We're in all the places you can listen to podcasts at. If you can give us a subscribe or review, all of that helps us out, helps us grow, and helps us reach out to other dads and try to help other dads. So thank you guys for listening. And Jordan, again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I hope we can catch up when I'm loopy and off my rocker from no sleep.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for listening to another episode of It's a Dad Thing podcast.
Bye.